Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, dish out on the movies. And we're here today to bring in another rendition of a Children of the Corn movie, the 8th one, and it is called Children of the Corn.
No, actually, it's technically the 9th one because after part 7 they did the remake.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So excuse you. So it's the 9th one, and it is called Genesis. And I don't know if this is supposed to be a biblical term, but you know that's a section of the Bible, the older section, Adam and Eve, etc., etc., etc. And I think a lot of people have already heard of Adam and Eve, so they know what that's all about. But the movie has actually nothing to do with that. And I think there was a Star Trek movie that was Genesis, and it's just not, it just has nothing to do with whatever the meaning of Genesis about something being born. There's nothing born in the movie, so.
It's going to be born.
Yeah, but it's just, these movies, Children of the Corn movies, are never what you even think they're going to be, whether good or bad. And
well, it's like they think, in terms of the titles, it's like they think that let's think of another Bible themed name, Genesis, Revelation, whatever, just the most generic biblical terms that they can think of are the ones that they'll use for the next Children of the Corn.
Well, I don't know.
Really?
In the Star Wars one, it was Spock. He died, and then he was reborn.
What?
And then Star Trek.
What?
I apologize.
What does that have to do with Children of the Corn?
It was called something Star Trek Genesis or something. I don't know, but anyway.
What?
This is just never mind.
What?
Or Star Wars and Star Trek. You're getting me all messed up. So anyway, let's just get back to Children of the Corn. Well, it's just the only time I can think of where they use the word Genesis in a title. And
I thought Genesis was part 5. Part 1 is part 1.
I don't know.
Part 2 is the Wrath of Khan. Part 3 is Search for Spock. Part 4 is The Quest for Peace. Part 5 is Genesis, isn't it?
I don't know, dear.
And then there's Star Trek Nemesis too. They have Nemesis.
Well, anyway, this is a very short movie. I guess they're all about the same size, just about an hour and a half, or an hour and 20 minutes, or an hour and 40 minutes.
This is even shorter technically because the title sequence is 2 minutes long, so that's another minus 2 minutes, and then it ends at 1 hour and 15, and then the credits go. So
but then I thought they showed an after credit.
That doesn't count as an after credits scene.
Okay, that was, yeah.
A post-credit scene is literally after the credits have happened.
Oh,
this wasn't. But it was a weird thing that we'll get to.
Yeah, basically, I'm just going to tell you, I hated the beginning and I hated the ending.
Yeah.
So everything in between was, pretty good, and but it was short and there wasn't too much to it. It was very simple, which seems like a lot of these movies have been very simple, but at least it had really good actors, and it's funny because you've heard about actors being in bad movies, and they talk about it and they say, oh, that was my worst movie ever, blah, blah. Well, anyway, I think the actors actually improved the movie because they were good. I mean, you just can tell they had experience, and it was just, it seemed more, even to Marco, it seemed more like an episode that could have been on TV. In other words, instead of a movie, they could have a series called Children of the Corn,
That's not what I meant, though.
Well, that's what I mean, because it's so short. And it was such a simplistic, well, I don't even know the way they did the end plot. I don't know what the plot was supposed to be. But the way like it's 3/4 of the movie, which is you get rid of the middle, for beginning, and you get rid of the end, and you have the filling. And the filling was pretty good. And that it could have made, if they would have finished it properly, it could have made a pretty good story. I don't know if you people think that we should be like helping them finish the story. In other words, we complain constantly about the endings. I think on quite a few of these that we've reviewed. And I don't know if you expect us to create some kind of ending. I don't feel like that's my job. And I am a writer. I've been a writer, but it's been like in a reporting type of thing, and also a diary or experience writing thing. But I've never created anything that's a horror. Marco's been more of that, but I just don't think. I think that these people are getting paid a lot of money, sure as heck a lot of money than we're getting paid to review movies.
Safi, the people who made this movie weren't paid a lot of money.
Okay, well,
come on, Safi.
They're getting paid to do something, and they need to do a little bit more than just something. They need to finish things. It seems like they have a hard time finishing things out. This one was pretty good. And it had to be. Well, the beginning was. They might as well just cut that out and edited it out. But after that, when they had this other beginning, that was part of the movie, the actual middle part, that was okay. And if they would have if it went like the beginning and the middle, and then you go almost to the end was crap. If they could have just finished it out, it would have been pretty good, all the way around, except for that beginning. That extra beginning. Go ahead.
Okay, now that you're done with your
whatever you
all over the place review, let's get started talking about the movie. And it was funny because I thought it'd be funny to do an April Fool's video where we pretended like we really liked this movie and it was really good and it was a masterpiece.
Can't do that.
But the funny thing is that we actually ended up liking the middle part of the movie.
Yeah, it was really good filling.
Which is like the majority of the movie. And so it's funny because our plan kind of like backfired. So I guess we're just going to do a straightforward review. We're not going to do any like prank video about it. So it starts off with probably the second or first stupidest part. Like, I can't really decide which part is worse, the beginning or the ending.
See, even Marco didn't like it, so
because
that must say something.
The beginning is, I don't know. Like, it starts off and there's this Vietnam veteran. He's back from the war.
And he could have been coming from Afghanistan, but they said something, because there was nothing to indicate the year at the beginning.
Yeah, there was. It said 1973.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Or something.
I didn't see that.
It said it right there. It said the place to location.
Okay, well, that would be Vietnam.
Oh, God, Safi, you're already...
Marco, shush up.
You're already embarrassing yourself. And so then the Vietnam soldier, who's clearly from Vietnam, comes home, and there's all these kids out front, and it doesn't look like the 1970s at all. I mean, Safi, is that what the 1970s looked like?
I don't know. I didn't live in the corn, and all you saw was corn everywhere.
What?
Corn. Farm. Rural. I didn't live in that kind of... So it could be... But I didn't feel... That's why I said I didn't feel like it was the past either. It could have been today.
Yeah, and it looked really cheap. It reminded me of Blade the Iron Cross, how they purposefully made that movie take place in World War II so that they could, like, use all these like high school theater props and wardrobe, and they didn't really have to spend any money to get like real like set decorations or things. Like they literally put like no effort into making this look like the 70s. But to be fair, this whole sequence is completely pointless. It doesn't add anything to the movie except for a couple of kills that are complete trash. So the Vietnam soldier, he goes into this house and he finds out that the Children of the Corn killed both his parents, and then they kill him. But
not his wife. His wife was there.
His wife,
and
whatever.
And the baby.
I wasn't really paying attention to like. Did they kill the baby?
Yes.
Oh, well. And see, that brings the ironic part and probably one of the stupidest things of the movie. The Vietnam guy starts having hallucinations again, like in the remake. And he's having PTSD flashbacks. And once again, these Children of the Corn are calling him a baby killer just because he's a Vietnam veteran. As if like all Vietnam veterans were baby killers.
And I know that's not true.
Which is just complete bullshit. And so then they show this hallucination of a Vietnamese child who's been shot in the head, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, why? Why did they put this in a Children of the Corn movie? Why are they pretending like just because he's a Vietnam veteran means he's a baby killer? That's complete like bullshit that like a retarded 20-year-old college student would say or something. Like that's not
maybe
something.
From my generation.
What do you mean?
Well, people were really, in my generation, they were really down on what was going on and soldiers.
But you could be down on the war and everything else, but you don't have to. You normal people don't go to that extreme to where you're calling all soldiers in the Vietnam War baby killers.
I knew that wasn't true.
Like
either.
That's just bullshit. It's like, where's the evidence of that? Like, just based on a couple of people here and there in the war.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's just it's terrible. It's like, why would you do that? It's like you're already starting off by insulting Vietnam veterans. This movie's not going to be very good.
Well, but anyway, he
gets killed.
What happened was he saw all these bodies and blood, and his baby and his wife and blood. They're dead, and he just got PTSD. It just kicked in really fast. He started having these hallucinations, and some kid was in there and actually like walking toward him, and of course it was so easy. There was this big staircase because he had to go up 2-3 flights of steps to get up to the upper floor, and they drive him to the top of the stairs, and he falls down the stairs and he's dead and blah blah blah. It's just And then you're thinking, well, the rest of the movie must be about this place.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No, this was completely pointless.
The only thing I can think of where there's a point to it is that they're just showing that the Children of the Corn are still around and still a problem.
Or maybe they killed the baby too. I mean,
yeah,
they're baby killers. But so does that mean like they want to kill the main woman's baby since they killed that baby?
I don't know. I wasn't thinking either way.
Well,
because I was thinking like this has nothing to do with that very beginning, so they might as well just edited that out.
Yeah, it's like when you have a flashback, it should play into the story somehow, but it does not with this. It's completely useless. And then what happens is we see the main characters. It's a couple.
They're married.
And, first off, you have this guy. He's not very good at acting sometimes, but then other times he's okay. And then you have his wife, and it's Isabel from The Office, which was pretty hilarious because this whole, this whole land, this whole piece of property it kind of reminded me of like, what if Dwight had some sort of a really evil, crazy neighbor or something, and and then Isabel goes to that house. I don't know. It's like you have to come up with things to entertain yourself when you're watching a piece of crap. And she's actually pretty good though. Like she's probably the second best actor in the movie, and she does a good job in comparison to like the one from the last movie and then the one before that, you know, like she is pretty good. And she elevates the movie.
Yes.
And the couple, their car broke down. Wow, I've seen that a million times.
And they didn't run off into the cornfield and run over somebody or you know, just run off to where they like messed up a tire, you know, where they got in a rut. It really was a legitimate car problem that they could have had anywhere in the country. So, but it happened there, of course, and that's a bad thing because you know what's going to happen. Maybe.
Yeah, something to do with children and corn.
Because there's corn everywhere. Because you know why?
There's not
They're
corn.
in Nebraska.
There's not corn in here. Not in this movie. They're in a desert somewhere.
No.
They're in the middle of like a desert or something. Like it's really weird. It doesn't look like Nebraska at all. The opening sequence did, but this didn't. So they go to this guy's place, and the guy is actually a very famous actor, and he was actually in the Voodoo episode of the X-Files that we reviewed, which I think was in season 7.
He's been in many things. I recognize him, and so he's had a lot of experience. A lot.
He's really good. He does a great job in this movie. He also elevates the movie. And it's funny because I was talking about how in part 5 they had that actor, David Carradine, and he was like a seasoned actor. And then, of course, in part 7 they had Michael Ironside. And in these instances, they had this big actor, and they didn't utilize them at all. Mm-mm. And in this movie, though, they utilized this big actor, and he's in, like, the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was a good example of how to use an actor like him, because he did a really good job. He was very creepy. He was... What, you didn't think he was creepy?
No, he was.
He was creepy, Safi.
Yeah, okay.
He was scary.
Yeah, he was.
He seemed like just a person in the middle of nowhere who you don't want to go to their house because he's gonna kill you and do things to your dead body or something. Like he's the perfect villain. Although it's kind of weird because it's a Children of the Corn movie, and you know he's probably the scariest part of the movie. So the couple wants to stay there to use his phone, and they have a little stupid back and forth where he's like, "No, we don't have a phone," and then, "Oh, actually, we do."
Well, the couple could see the line, the phone line, so they knew that he was lying.
I don't know. It just seemed like some of the dialogue in this movie was pretty bad. Like it was pretty awkward and choppy, and you know, kind of confusing the way that people would say things out of nowhere. Like there's this part in the movie that's probably one of the stupidest exchanges of dialogue in history, where the girlfriend is leaning against the door in the bedroom, and the boyfriend says, "Don't lean against the door," and she says, "Why?" And he says, "I don't know, just don't do it." Yeah. And it's like, what is that? Like, who wrote that and got paid to write that? Like, all you had to do was just say, that guy might open the door, or the evil forces might blow open the door. Like, why did you have to put, "I don't know, just don't do it"? Like, that is just terrible writing. Terrible, Safi.
Yeah.
So the couple's in the house.
They're going to stay the night. They've called a car repair place like a AAA, and they're supposed to come the next morning and I don't know, I guess take them to a place, take their car and go to a place to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And then something else happens.
Well, also the guy who's living there, what also made this interesting was that he had a wife, and she was a Ukrainian.
No, she was from Russia or Belarus.
She
but
said
she was Eastern
Ukraine.
European. She did?
Yes, Safi.
Okay. I didn't hear that.
She was a Ukrainian mail order bride.
And she had the accent, and she wore a nightgown through the entire movie.
It was very
a really crappy
stereotypical
nightgown.
She's got this like ugly nightgown. It is probably one of the ugliest nightgowns I've ever seen.
Something you wear if you were 90. And I hate to say that, sorry, but it just wasn't. It was so plain and just cotton and just, ugh.
Well, you know what it reminded me of?
No.
Well, there's this Malcolm in the Middle episode, and it was when Francis was in Alaska, and one of the people that he worked with, he ordered a mail order Russian bride, and he was really excited about it because he was like an old person and he didn't have anyone or anything, and he got all ready for her, and then she came, and the big twist was that it wasn't actually a mail order bride, it was a blow-up doll.
Oh.
And so, and so that was pretty funny. And but that kind of made this movie unique. I mean, you never expected in a Children of the Corn movie to see a mail order Ukrainian bride.
Weird.
It was there were a lot of weird things in this movie, a lot of weird choices. And part of the reason, well, I think a lot of the reason is because this movie wasn't even supposed to be made. The company that owned the rights to Children of the Corn, they were about to lose the rights because they hadn't made a movie since 2001. And so they had to throw together this movie and release it just to say that they released a movie and keep the rights.
Oh.
So this was literally like a thrown together piece of crap. The thing is that they still managed to put together a somewhat decent horror movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was scary, I thought. There were several scary parts, albeit little, but they were in the middle.
Yeah. And it felt like it shouldn't have been Children of the Corn, though.
No,
that was the thing.
Not really.
It felt like a completely new story about a creepy guy with this creepy mail order bride and this kid that he keeps in a shed and doing who knows what.
The kid had psychic powers, apparently.
But that was kind of a twist. At first, they thought, uh-oh, he's a creepy weirdo. What's going on?
And they called the cops.
And it was very creepy, and it was very well done at that point. But there were some stupid cliches, like Safi and I were talking about how she was told not to look around anywhere because, it's not her place, and, so fuck off. But then what does she do? No, she doesn't cough, Safi.
What happens is they had an outhouse. You could not go to the bathroom in the house. There was no bathroom. So the bathroom is outside. So he said, you can go outside, if you have to use the bathroom, there's an outhouse outside. And then and he told them where it was. And then if they needed water, there's a kitchen sink and had running water. There was no bathroom with water. So he was telling them all these things. So what does she do? She has to go to the bathroom because they gave him tea when they were talking. And she's pregnant. And so she had to go to the bathroom. So she goes outside, and the guy says, however, don't go anywhere else because it's none of your business.
No, I just said, what did she do? I didn't say, like, what happened leading up to her.
Oh.
What did she do? Like, because I already said that.
Well, she goes to the bathroom, but then what happens?
I was asking you.
She runs all over the property,
Yeah.
checking out things in the dark on somebody else's property, and it's scary because it's in the country, and it's all, everything isn't all neat and nice, and you don't hear the city noises or the neighbors. They're in the middle of nowhere.
It's like, number one, what if there's a Blair Witch Project going on outside?
Well, I was thinking of animals, like a skunk or something.
Well,
ew.
Number two, what if there's booby traps lying around everywhere?
There's that too.
Because, I mean, not even like an evil person could have just booby traps everywhere all over his property. So,
and she's pregnant,
it was
and she
stupid.
should be protecting the baby, and that means not getting herself into trouble.
But it was a typical cliche horror movie. Person goes around looking at places that they're not supposed to be looking, and then they discover something bad.
She discovered a kid.
And the boy was trash because he never had any lines of dialogue or anything.
No.
Well,
no, she said, are you okay, or who are you, or something, and it was just like maybe a couple lines. But that was it.
Oh, I thought he just went like...
No, I thought he said something.
I don't know. I thought he just went like...
I don't know. See, we can't even remember because it was so brief.
Yeah. So it turns out that this is the Children of the Corn of the movie, and he is possessed by he who walks behind the rose, as usual, and it is actually a pretty good. It reminded me of like a drive-in movie, like a crappy old drive-in movie, like Frankenstein's Bloody Terror that Safi talked about last year, like kind of on that level. They really played up the main guy who owned the property as being like a bad guy, and in reality I guess he really wasn't. Like, what happened was his mail order bride was she already had a baby, or she was pregnant, and so the whole reason for her coming to him, of all people, was so that she could force him to take care of her son. And basically she's she's not very nice, and so he's like, oh well, I'll forgive you, I'm gonna say F you to your stupid son. And so he locks the son up in the shed, and the son becomes possessed by he who walks behind the rose. And that's why I said this should have just been its own thing. It should not have been Children of the Corn. Safi, you're just staring intently into these girls' eyes.
Well, she looks like she's a vampire. I think she'd be great. That girl right there would be great in a vampire movie.
Oh, God.
Just like she's a vampire.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay, come on, let's go. Keep going.
I was saying something,
go.
and then I was like, Safi.
Well, I'm thinking about what you said, too. I can do two things at once.
You're just staring intently into the girls from Scream 6's
I'll cover
eyes.
my eyes since you can't.
Oh, just go ahead, Safi.
No.
I put that up for you. It's the screensaver on my Mac for you.
Yeah, okay.
See? Look.
That's
Look.
nice. Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's keep going.
Well, so the next thing to talk about, I guess, is the couple tries getting out of the situation in various ways. There's a couple of funny things, like there's some sort of like hallucination that the Ukrainian woman had sex with the boyfriend, and then he's like, no, I didn't.
He's a husband. He's her husband.
Or husband, whatever. Did that happen?
No.
Okay, so it was just like a hallucination to F with their minds. They had a couple of these hallucinations in the movie that were really, really bad looking and really queer. And what ends up happening is that it's revealed that he who walks behind the rose wants the main girl's baby.
Yeah.
He wants the baby.
And he wants to get rid of the husband.
Because he wants more children. He wants more children of the corn. To do what? Who knows? And that's the other thing too. Does he want to kill the baby like they killed the baby in the opening of the movie?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That's why that opening scene should have been cut out.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything in the movie. Nothing. Except to say they're still there. Which they could have done by showing the rest of the movie. And just left that intro out. Like I said, the intro has nothing to do with the movie. It should have been cut out. And I'm just wondering, well, maybe if they had cut it out, that it wouldn't have been a long enough movie. And they would have gotten in trouble.
Yeah, that's probably
That's the only thing I can think of. In fact, they could have just tacked it on. Or wouldn't they be able to do that with editing? So, because it had all the different characters, a different place, like a different house. Everything was different. So it's like it was extra. Like they tacked it on, and it was just unnecessary. It had nothing to do with anything. It would have been better. It would have flowed better. Because after they showed that intro scene with the soldier, then he falls down the stairs, then they show these children around. They don't smile or laugh or like they did in some of these other movies. They were just quiet and had sober looking faces.
They didn't play arcade games either.
No. And so then after that they cut it off, and then they start this new thing with this couple driving into Nebraska. The car breaks down, etc., etc. So it's like a complete cutoff. So I'm wondering now, because of the size of the movie, that they had to make it longer. Because if they worked more on the ending, they wouldn't have had to worry about that.
Yeah, the ending was so terrible. So what happens is the couple, they basically can't get out of the house because the kid's psychic powers is blocking them from leaving, and it would hurt them. And at one point, there's a really funny part that happens where a police officer comes, and then all of a sudden...
Well, the married couple called the police because they heard this kid, and they thought they were abusing him. So that's why they called police.
So all of a sudden, this policeman, he's searching around, and he just flies up into the air out of nowhere, and it's probably the funniest part of the whole movie.
He just disappears.
It's just so random. He just is picked up off the ground and flies up into the air.
Like a rocket, too.
It's the funniest thing. It's just...
I don't know how they did that. But
who came up with that? Like, just what were they thinking?
It was like a mini tornado all of a sudden appeared, but you couldn't see the tornado because it was in the middle of the night. And it sucked the guy up and whoop. I mean, there was no pause or anything. He just went whoop. And he didn't come back down. He went straight up and went to the moon, I guess.
We'll talk about that because there's an even funnier part that happens after the credits start. Okay, so it gets to be the morning, and then all of a sudden there's this delivery guy there, and he's got food for them, and he has a car set for the little boy because the little boy ordered the cars somehow.
Well, it's like a grocery order.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then the couple just leaves. And there's this whole hilarious sequence where they see that, oh, maybe this delivery truck driver, maybe he's a bad guy. So maybe we shouldn't go with him. So they steal the police car and go drive off. And then the kid uses the toy cars to make all the cars fly in the middle of the road and hit their car, make them get in a crash. It kills the husband, and then the wife is taken by the delivery truck driver
just suddenly shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like he knew that it was going to happen the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually really hilarious, though, because it was such a weird sequence. Like, why didn't they trust the delivery truck driver? And then, maybe the vision was wrong, like with the Ukrainian woman having sex with the husband. That never happened, so maybe this vision is wrong, too. Like, there's just, like, I don't know, it's kind of dumb and stupid and illogical. And when she comes back, all of a sudden, I guess she's just like given up. And so she walks into the shed and sits next to the little boy and sings him a song and falls asleep. And that's the end of the movie. I thought that was really stupid. It was really like, I think that they were worried that if the couple just escaped, that people would say that the movie was bad and nothing happened in it. But honestly...
Well, still nothing happened.
Still nothing happened.
It didn't have any meaning at all. Except that the kid has psychic powers and was able to make a tractor trailer full of brand new vehicles, make all the vehicles fly off the truck, and it was a crowded road. This was a major highway with 6 lanes or something. And so all these other people would have been in danger by these flying cars and trucks, too.
Yeah, and then there's no investigation to the police officer who went missing either. Like, they had that same type of thing happen in, like, other horror movies, like House of a Thousand Corpses. There's a part in the movie where police come, they all get killed, and then of course you know that in the sequel movie that the police come back because they're like, what the hell happened? And then they get them all. So I was really enjoying the movie for how simplistic it was and how it actually just utilized simplistic horror movie elements. Like, it was actually pretty good in the middle of the movie, but then that ending is just so terrible that it destroys the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because it's just like meaningless.
Yeah.
There's no point to it.
And then
she's in shock. Her husband just got killed. I mean, it's a horrible car wreck.
But she just gives up.
Yeah.
She's just like giving up, and she's just gonna give her baby away or something. Like, I don't understand what's gonna happen now. Well, then we see there's this hilarious thing where the credits start and then they stop, and then we see that the kid is playing with a doll, and he drops the doll on the ground, and then the police officer drops on the ground too.
Well, it was up high.
Yeah.
It was like up on a shelf or a post or something in the barn.
That was really funny, Safi.
And he knocks it off and starts throwing it up in the air and playing, and then it drops and it falls to the ground. And then you see the police guy all of a sudden out of the middle of nowhere fall out of the sky and fall to the ground.
That was so funny. I was laughing for like an entire minute.
Well, what was weird about it was I don't think they handled it right, because it was a stunt, and of course nobody fell out of the sky. They just made it look like that. And when he was on the ground, I mean, somebody who fell, I'm talking about, he looked like he shot to the moon, okay? And he's been up in the air for hours, maybe 11, 8, a lot of hours. And we have gravity here. And he would have come down right away. And he didn't. So the kid has psychic power, so he comes falling to the ground. So he probably, every bone in his body would be broken. But when you look at him, it looks like he's still alive, and he's almost laughing. I mean, he didn't. It wasn't realistic. It shouldn't have shown it. I didn't really. It just wasn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't have shown it.
It wasn't right.
It was actually kind of creepy that, like, oh, this kid's powers are so powerful that he can just make a person fly up into the air. They're dead. They're disappear forever.
And levitate somewhere. I don't know where.
That's pretty creepy. Like, It's like in Twilight Zone, or sending people to the cornfield type thing.
Yeah, maybe that's where he was. I didn't even think about that.
They could have done that too. They could have
they could have. That's what I say. These people, if they would,
They could have done this. They could have done that.
See, that's why I hate. We are not responsible.
Yeah.
For rewriting and making their stories better.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're perfect. Marco's a lot better at this than I am about writing.
Well, you don't have to be perfect. It's just you have to make something that feels like that feels like it's actually something. This movie, they even admitted it's just thrown together. But
they did a good job. Like I said, the middle part of it is pretty good.
They did a good job, despite the fact that it's bad.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was scary in the middle, but it was not Children of the Corn.
It was kind of like a horror movie, just a regular. Anything.
It felt like something that M. Night Shyamalan would do.
Yeah, maybe.
Totally. Especially the ending part. You know as well as I do, M. Night Shyamalan would have done that ending with the cars. With the toy cars. And he would have taken it seriously. Even more than these guys did.
It's just like they had this image and let's do that. And they do it and then they just like, okay, it's over. We'll just kind of let it fizz out.
It's a horror movie. It's on our IMDb credits. Yeah. Next to our 500 other horror movies that are all really good horror movies. Wink, wink.
Yeah, so anyway, I think we will review the movie now. Give it our food review.
Yeah.
And my food review is a Thin Mint, like Girl Scout cookies. Thin Mints. Thin Mint from last year. Last year's cookies were... Thin Mints were powdery, and I don't know if they cooked them baked them improperly, or they were dry and powdery, or it has something to do with the fat content was not right, and so they were not. But this year they were better, a lot better. So I don't know what they did because I don't have a box from last year to compare it with this year, but. Anyway, still, even if it wasn't, it was powdery and not good from last year's batch, it's still, the movie is very thin on storyline.
Yeah, like it is literally a thin mint.
Yeah, because the mint, it's very good flavor. I like it. Marco likes it. I know maybe not everybody does, but anyway, quite a few people like thin mints. But anyway. That's the movie. The middle part was pretty good, like a Thin Mint. And then, like I said, the ending is just crap. And that beginning thing, I'll say it, the extra beginning scene, or whatever you want to call it, is horrible and doesn't belong with the movie. It's like some other show, actually. Some other horror movie. So, anyway, how about you, Marco? What do you think?
Well, earlier I accidentally came up with the food review. So, there are times that you go to Wendy's and their food is not good. And it's been happening quite a lot recently. And it's funny because on this channel, we used to, all the time, we'd be like, Wendy's is really good. Wendy's is really good. And now it's like exactly the opposite. And it all started with their French fries, where they said, oh, well, we're going to take the really good French fries that are perfect, hardly have any black spot fries at all. We're going to take those, and we're going to use gross, bad potatoes with lots of black spots, and we're going to double fry them to make them like even worse than they are already, and we're going to ruin them. Well... There have been a few times where I would go there to get spicy nuggets with French fries and a Frosty. To start off, and this is going to be the food for the movie. So to start off, this is not a Children of the Corn movie in my opinion. So it's like I asked for spicy nuggets, and they give me 7 regular nuggets and 3 spicy. And they've done that before. Like, they've done stuff like that to where it's like, oh, there's some spicy ones in here, like I ordered. But then there's all these other regular ones. And the regular ones are gross, and they're terrible. And they don't go with ranch dressing. And that's the thing. I purposefully get ranch dressing because that's what goes with the spicy nuggets. But they will give me the regular ones, and regular nuggets go with either sweet and sour or barbecue sauce. And so that was this movie. It's like you're expecting one thing, and then you get another thing with a little bit of good stuff in it. And then the fries are terrible. There's all these black spots, and it looks like they're all moldy and stuff. They're terrible, terrible fries. The fries have just gotten so bad, I don't even get fries anymore. I get their cheesy baked potato if I get anything. And then the Frosty is the ending. The Frosty is the worst part, because when you get a Frosty, you expect ice cream consistency. That's what it's always been like since the beginning of time. That's why it's called a Frosty and not a milkshake. But now, it has gotten so bad at Wendy's that you get a Frosty and it is like drinking
a shake.
Yeah, a shake or water, liquid. It is not a Frosty in any way, shape, or form. And so they'll give me a straw to go with the Frosty.
Because they know.
Because they know.
They wouldn't do that.
It's like, that's really bad. Like, this is supposed to be a Frosty, and you're giving me a straw because you know it's terrible. And that's the ending to this movie. It is a Wendy's 2023 Frosty that you can't even eat with a spoon because it's like eating soup. It's a soup shake.
Well, I would like to go to another Wendy's somewhere. I don't eat the Frosties, but I would like to go to some other Wendy's somewhere else and see if that's what's going on with all of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if their Frosty machine is just not working properly.
It might be.
And you know, for somebody else, you know, we might have somebody comment. In fact, you can make a comment to this and say, if you go to Wendy's, if that's what's happening. I'm just curious. I know it's kind of stupid and trivial, but I'm just interested because you know, Wendy's has been around for a while, and it was never like that. In fact, you might ask for a straw, and then you would try to drink it, and you could never do it because it was so frosted. It was so like ice cream. You can't suck ice cream through a straw if it's real hard.
No.
You can barely even eat it with a spoon. And you would just get the spoon, and you would actually take the lid off and eat it with the spoon. And it's not like that anymore at all. And
No.
it's not like this has happened once or twice. It happens all the time. Like every time he would order it. Every single time. It wouldn't matter what flavor it was or anything. And so I'm wondering, is it just, maybe it's our Wendy's. I remember a couple of years ago, we would get, well, I didn't get it because I didn't eat any of that stuff back then, but Marco would get a shake. And they say, well, the ice cream machine's broken. And it seemed like it happened a lot.
What do you mean, for McDonald's?
McDonald's. And so it sounds, it hasn't happened in a long time because they also make other, whatever those coffee drinks with the, it seems like there's ice cream in those, and they never say anything bad about the ice cream. They never say it's broken, so they must have got it fixed or got a new one. Well, Wendy's must need to do something like that. They must have an ailing frosty machine. And you could see it because we can see in there. When they're doing, you can see when they're putting it in the cup.
You feel it, and you can feel that it is not a Frosty.
Yeah, it's a shake.
What makes it worse is that now, instead of using paper cups, you know, those old yellow cups that were really cool and really good and distinctive, oh, well, now they use clear plastic cups.
And I think that makes it worse too.
That makes it so that they melt a lot easier, and so they've just totally. I'm sick of these restaurants just making these decisions, and like they don't need to make these decisions in the first place. Like, you didn't need to change your fries and ruin them. You didn't need to put your Frosties in plastic because, you know, you don't want to put yellow paper cups in the environment or some stupid shit like that. It's like, no, nobody cares.
Well, they're not. There's nothing wrong with the cups. They could be recycled, or just thrown in the trash. It wouldn't be. They're not a. They can be burned or whatever. They're not a menace to the environment.
Like, why?
So it makes no sense that they would.
Why are
switch.
they using plastic cups now?
Unless it's
like,
cost.
Why?
Unless it's cost, but
I
to
don't think
me,
so.
That's kind of like one of the main things they are known for and always have been known for.
Yellow cups.
No, a Frosty. The Frosty. Nobody else had that. Nobody else does it. Now, really, they cannot say, at least at our Wendy's, they can't say that that's Frosty.
Yeah, they say...
They should be saying it's shake.
Milkshakes.
Yeah. So anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to become one of our subscribers, which we would love to hear your comments about the movie and about other things, Frosties, for example, you're welcome to contribute. We welcome all new subscribers. And April Fool. It's April Fool's Day. Okay? Goodbye,
Safi,
everybody.
Who's the fool?
I don't know.
You.
Yeah. Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.